You'll never make it as a writer unless you devote yourself 100% to the craft and write full-time. Sure, I disagree, and here's why. I've heard it said many times by many people, whether in music, writing, comic creation, or other creative fields. You'll never make it unless you devote yourself to your craft full-time. Despite the fact that a large number of successful creators all started part-time while they were working a day job, supporting a family, and so on. There are also a lot of creators who choose to follow their passions part-time, keeping a stable day job separate from their creative endeavors. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't huge benefits to devoting yourself full-time to your craft, but it's not the only path to creative success, and I think it's time we balance the scales on this myth a little. So let's look at the pros and cons of writing full-time. If you're writing for a living, you'll constantly be practicing and getting better. The more exposure you get to different writing assignments, the more you'll be able to hone your craft. You'll also have a great deal more time to spend writing, editing, networking, and searching for more writing opportunities. You'll be able to fully immerse yourself in the writing profession, devoting a lot more time and effort than you would if you worked full-time in another job. If you can discipline yourself to keep a good routine, you'll be able to be incredibly productive, arguably much more so than if you were writing part-time. If you can maintain energy and focus, you should be able to write a lot more and get more efficient at writing. So your productivity will definitely get a boost. As a self-employed writer, you'll also be able to offset some writing-related costs and potentially take advantage of some tax breaks as a small business owner. These aren't likely to bring in the big bucks, but they'll help reduce costs as much as possible as you branch out in your writing career. Now, let's look at the cons of writing full-time. Firstly, and this is a big one, it's unlikely that you'd earn as much money from writing as you would from a normal day job, especially at the beginning as you're starting to build out your body of work, becoming known as a writer and marketing your books to raise your profile. This means that you'll have less money for food, rent, bills, and importantly, less money to spend on promoting your own work, buying research assets, attending seminars, and so on. The lack of money may also place greater pressure on your family relationships, raise your stress levels when it comes to paying bills, and keeping the wheels turning on your family finances. In short, you'll likely be running lean for quite a while, which will potentially increase stress and force you to move away from several of the coping mechanisms you might typically employ to keep yourself running at an even keel. As a full-time writer, in all likelihood, you won't be able to be too picky about which jobs you take. In fact, a large portion of your time will probably be spent hunting down jobs and pitching yourself in order to bring in more work. As a result, you'll be writing for other people, focusing on their projects and helping support their goals. You'll become, in part at least, the writing equivalent of a session musician, a writer for hire, writing reviews, articles, short stories, and so on to keep the money coming in. If you're a creative writer and your main focus is still to write your own novels, short stories, scripts, and so on, then writing every day to earn a living can be quite draining. You might find that you've got very little left in the tank when it comes to writing your own novel if you've been writing all day on other projects. Now, you might be that rare individual who has an inexhaustible supply of energy and creative ideas. If so, congratulations. But if you're like the rest of us mere mortals, then the likelihood of burnout is a very real possibility, and you'll need to build in strategies to your day-to-day work life to help avoid that. There's also no guarantee that all the extra time you have to spend on writing will actually be spent writing your novels, screenplays, and so on. You'll need to be very disciplined and avoid procrastination. And you'll need to strike a balance between writing, editing, hunting down new leads, promoting your work, advertising, networking, and managing your day-to-day life. Now, let's look at the alternative, writing as a side hustle while you're still working a day job. Having a steady source of income each week means that you won't need to stress about where your next rent payment is coming from or how you're going to put food on the table. This will free you up to focus on writing and also provide some extra funds which you can use for writing research, training seminars, and so on. Having a day job which isn't highly creative can be a real plus for a writer. It means that you can spend a long day working hard, but when you get home, you've still got plenty of creative energy left for writing writing because you haven't used that creative energy in your workday. The odds are working a day job isn't going to be the most fulfilling thing imaginable. You'll need to come to terms with the office politics, the mind-numbing banality, the repetition, the nonsensical corporate speak, forced fun activities, and more. And if you're lucky enough to have a day job that you enjoy, fantastic. For most people though, the day job is a means to an end. And given that your real passion and focus is in writing, I think that's perfectly okay. We live in an age when working a job is supposed to give us purpose, but the reality is it's okay for your job to be a means to a more fulfilling end. Provided the conditions are good, you can do good quality work without selling your soul, and you're not utterly miserable. You may have to put up with the fact that your day-to-day job is a little mundane and boring. As with all things, it's all about the right balance. For me, I'd much prefer to work a day job which pays the bills, a job which doesn't drain my creativity. This combined with regular writing rhythm and enough time to focus on my craft means that I can pick and choose the writing jobs that I want, going wherever inspiration leads rather than having to write just to earn money. There are huge benefits to focusing full-time on writing, however, and I can see the benefits of that approach. Just don't buy into the myth that you'll never be successful as a writer if you do it part-time. Nothing is forever, and maybe working part-time on your passion will transition into a full-time job in the future. If you stay focused, you put in the work, and you take opportunities when they arise. There are many different ways to approach this, but I think it's time we dispel the myth that you can't be serious about your craft if you're not writing full-time. The starving artist might be a wonderfully romantic idea, but if I've got a choice, I'd prefer not to starve, and I'd prefer to focus on the writing I most enjoy rather than being forced to write just to earn a buck. So what about you? Have you ever considered going full-time with writing? Have you ever felt like writing part-time means you're somehow inferior? Let me know in the comments below, and remember, keep it real, keep it safe.